podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Some of the topics are addiction, fear, faith, self-compassion, relationships, codependency, emotional intelligence, and more. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations. In this episode, Lawrence McGrath explains how institutionalized minds lead to conflicted living. The conversation is about marriage, religion, and quotes-unquote truth, topics which Lawrence connect to institutionalized minds and conflicted living. Lawrence McGrath is an 85-year-old author who used to be a Marine pilot, college professor, college president, bank president, and a consultant. In his book, A Cry from the Heart, a personal essay, he expresses his thoughts about religion, dogma, love, and life. Here is the interview with Lawrence McGrath. Welcome back, Lawrence, and thank you again for your collaboration and support to this podcast. Today, our conversation is about institutions and how they influence in the way we think and in the way we live. My first question to you is, what is an institutionalized mind?
Well, an institutionalized mind is one that has learned the definition of words as espoused by that religion. And I've said, I don't know if I've said on this show, but there are 7 mutually exclusive worldviews. Each of them are conflicted. You can't believe in multiple gods and believe in one God, or you can't believe God is in this world and is out of this world. And so the problem is George Orwell said it best. He said, the world cannot imagine the influence the elders have over child. The enduring and capacity to believe that what the elder tells the child is true is just remarkable. And therefore, when they're institutionalized, the child is institutionalized, then it takes, like Aristotle said, that it takes harder to teach a man who is ignorant than it is to tell one who is in error. Because at first, you have to tell the guy he's in error that he's wrong, convince him he's wrong before you can teach him the truth. That's it in a nutshell. And everyone in the world is under a worldview. Whether they like it or not, or whether they know it or not, they are in a worldview. And my goal is just to show them that they are living in a worldview and that there is no worldview that has the answer. It's all a belief. And we can't have the willingness to impose our will on another continue to work. It's conflicted living.
What is like to live without a belief?
Well, I think we all have a belief. It's just we don't have the affirmation of an institution to validate our position. And that's, the trillion or the billion people that are Catholics and the billion people that are non-Catholic and the billion people of Muslim, they all believe. And they believe that you get a reward in heaven, I guess.
You wrote something interesting. You said organized religions have failed in their mission because their leaders fell in love with their dogma instead of their God. Why did they fall in love with their dogma?
Oh, lots of reasons. Pride in position, power. In true belief, they just were ignorant of the facts, and they just did. An example, the virgin birth. Okay, at the 6,000 years ago, a book was written called Gilgamesh, and it's the first novel that we have in history. And there were many gods. And God came to earth and inflicted a son on a woman, and his name was Gilgamesh, and he was half God, half man. Well, the civilization continued with that philosophy that their gods were either totally in heaven, they were inflicted on earth by gods, and or then, like Caesar, he had earned the right by his power and glory that he became a god. And that's the institution that the founding fathers of Christianity had, that still they had to believe that Jesus was a God. And so they came up with true God and true man. So I don't know where they got that, but that's it. And so that's what they believe. But they couldn't reconcile the conflicting theory of original sin. And Mary had to be a virgin because she couldn't carry original sin and give a virginal birth to Jesus. So Mary was given a remake as being a virgin. And then they said, well, she had to be a virgin before that. And so they called Anna, Mary's mother, and they anointed her giving Mary a virgin birth. She was a virgin. And so, and that's what they mindlessly believe if they inquire on the fact of Jesus being born of virgin, of human being, and a human God. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. And of course, but that's an institutionalized mind, is one that takes that message and believes it's true and goes about life.
Right. That's right. I know you believe in God, right?
Yes, I do.
And I also know that the concept of sin is a religious one. But in general, why do you think we have a sin nature?
Well, that's why I wrote the Kinkle stories. The Kinkle is a fiction, of course, but I don't know how, it's kind of long to describe, but the Kinkle comes with every baby, and he wants what he wants when he wants it. That the only thing the baby has as a tool or a weapon to live by is crying. And for the first year and a half, if he is hot and cold or hungry or tired, he cries. And mommy and daddy fix him up. They give him good food. So he has, by the year and a half, with no reason not to believe that what he needs or wants, he gets when he cries, and he gets mad.
Right.
And then the next stage is the unique way that we get around that. When we start minding the child, the parents tell him no, and he does it anyway, and he gets spanked, and he doesn't learn to mind. What the child learns is that if you're bigger and stronger, you'll get what you want when you want it. And so that plays out in life for the rest of his life. And we encourage it, and we football. We give high salaries to football players. The whole spirit of the game is to impose your will on another and score. It's crazy. We have institutionalized the definition of words to the point where they don't even make sense anymore.
Right. What do you think, or what do you believe needs to be changed?
Well, unlike you, I have been cursed or rewarded with the desire to go to the root cause. And for me, I'm taking on the whole world. The whole world is upside down. The people have to learn that the language they speak is in error. And how do you teach 7, 8, 9 billion people? It's a slow process, and you are my bright shining star. Mm-hmm. You're taking this to the people for me.
Right. That's my passion, the awareness. Yeah. But start with myself. I love listening and connecting with people who have something to say. I love that. How is marriage connected to the concept of institutionalized minds and conflicted living?
Okay, let me see. The English marriage law began in the 11th century. They were predominantly used by the church, which were the only educated people, or not only, but basically the only educated people, to record the heirs, the legitimate heirs. And so they started, and they had the book in the church registry where they registered the marriage, so that a girl did a roll in the hay couldn't claim her child was the firstborn, because he'd inherit everything. And if they weren't registered in their church registry, they had the bride and groom as witnesses, and then they had groomsmen and maids of honor as witnesses to the marriage, and then they had the families being married. And so they couldn't all lie, in other words, to support a position. And it happened that the church law, the canon law, allowed for only adultery as a rule for divorce. But they had 4 reasons for annulment. And one is you were crazy and not able to consent to the marriage. Okay. 2, you were married before. 3, you didn't consummate the marriage with a sex act. And 4, I forget what 4 is, but anyway, Henry VIII is the one that blew the lid off of it. And the 1640s, he married Arthur's wife. Arthur was his older brother, and he married her, but she had to go before the bishop and say that Arthur never consummated the marriage. And so that gave her permission to marry the king. And he, after 8 or 12 years, wanted an heir, and had her say that, well, no, she lied. Arthur really did consummate the marriage. And so that made her pre-existing condition, and then annulled the marriage, and he went to that, and he did that 4 times, and finally he said, well, this is silly. The marriage contract is like every other contract, we can do it in Congress, can pass the Marriage Act. And so they did. And not Congress, oh Lord, their House of Parliament passed the Marriage Act. And they brought the canon law with them. And they interpreted it. And of course, then we exported it to America, and America had it all the same way. That's the sum and substance of the marriage that we have. I've read some place that 20% of our population are not genetically fixed as to male or female. And so these poor people are ostracized, and they are not considered human, and they have to live a life of celibacy, and they have rebelled in recent times, but they have their right to life. They're like anybody else. And it's we that have to change our attitude from the institutionalized mind of what a male and female is and what a human being is. And that's a really big subject, but we're beginning. We're still life is evolving.
Right. That's right. So what is happening is that we have been living through concepts instead of intuition or our own thinking. We are not thinking for ourselves. That's what I hear you saying over and over, and that's causing a lot of problems.
Yes, that's correct. And we let the institutions drive the dialogue. They are not wrong.
What is institutional truth, and how many types of truth are there?
Okay, there's none. There is no truth. If you can take science, there is only belief.
Aside from science, right?
No, that's it. I don't have my paper in front of me. I can't recall. But if you take what is represented as truth to its full conclusion, you just can't find in the universe, because it's impossible to find in the trillions of stars. You can't test it. And so science doesn't have the truth. They have a high degree of probability, but they don't, and neither do the philosophy.
Right. What would be truth anyway? What is your definition for truth?
Well, truth is stating a result from applying given facts, and that is the truth. If you can say 1 and 1 and 2, then you put 1 and 1 on the paper and it says 2, and that's a fact. That's the truth. But it's only a truth if you are agreeing in the principle of 10 as a number. You see, if you used 3 as a 1, 2, 3, and you start over again, 11, 12, 13, 21, 22, 23, then that is different. And you have to agree on what the facts are.
So there is a collective agreement.
Yes, indeed.
For everything, pretty much, right, Lawrence?
Yes, that's true. And that's what makes religion so, because it's family, it's friends, it's history. It's just real tough to break.
Right. And that's interesting, because one thing we know for sure about life is that it's in constant renewal and change. So there's no such a thing as facts or truth, no solidity. Everything's changing. Do you want to make any other comments on the topic of institutionalized minds and conflicted living?
Well, no, I don't think so. I believe we've covered it as much as we can do in this broad podcast.
I would probably have other questions to ask you. I didn't read the second piece you wrote, so maybe we can return to that when I read it, because I didn't do my homework, just one.
Okay, you're awfully busy, and I think you're doing a wonderful job.
Thank you, Lawrence. I'll be asking you now some questions related to life in general, well-being, spirituality. Are you okay?
Yeah.
My first question is, what is to be one's best friend?
To be there and count on him or her. I think that's the thing for being a friend. There's a definition: a friend that knows all about you and likes you anyway.
Right. And what would be like to be your own best friend?
Well, it seems impossible. I don't know. That's far from my mind. I haven't ever thought about it.
What makes you laugh?
Laugh.
Yeah, besides the question itself.
Well, I guess I don't know. Just the incongruities of life, the inconsistencies. I laugh at myself a lot.
Yeah, I hear a lot of that from my guests. Like, I make fun of my own self.
Yeah.
That's great. How do we know the purpose of our lives?
Oh, we don't. Oh, well, that's easy. You see, my statement is God is in the bowling business. He knocks over a lot of pins with one ball. And that's why you've got the prescriptive will that is, thou shalt honor their father and mother and do all the positive things. Then you have the prohibited will, and that's, thou shalt not sin and screw and whatever, and everything in between. And that's a really big area is permissive will. And so if you are faithful and you prayed and ask for God to lead, guide, and direct you, then you are trusting in Him to lead, guide, and direct you. But if it's a matter that you're asking, should I marry this girl, or should I get this job, or should I change jobs? And He's silent, and so that He hasn't told you. So you screw up your face and you make the best decision you can, and then you go forward with it. Well, there you can't be wrong. You can't make a wrong decision. You cannot accomplish your goal, but that is not a wrong decision because you have been faithful to your God to have Him lead, guide, and direct you. And you know He got from you your faithfulness. And so you don't know how He used you to accomplish His purpose.
Right. What about those who don't believe in God?
Well, they're just out there on their own, and I wish them well. But they don't have any answers.
Maybe that the voice within is the voice of God. Maybe they're listening to that voice without believing in a God. That could happen too, right, Lawrence?
Yes, that's certainly true, and a lot of things we apply to God don't necessarily apply to God. So, yeah.
The next question is, what is to know oneself? What is to know yourself?
Well, you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, and you try to work in the area that calls on your strengths and not work in the area that calls on your weakness. This has been very, very hard for me, but you got to have confidence in yourself. You manifest that. You have the confidence that you're doing something. And that's good. And I think I felt that way 20 years ago. But anyway, that's know your strengths and weaknesses.
That makes a lot of sense to me. If you were to have one meal every day for the rest of your life, what would that be? Yes.
One meal. Well, let's see. We're into the meatless hamburger right now.
Oh, good.
we like that. It's very good. Beyond meat.
It's healthy.
Yes.
With French fries or?
No. Oatmeal.
Good. That's good too.
Oatmeal. Lettuce salad it would be good.
You're going for healthy foods. If you were to have one meal would be a healthy one, not a pleasurable one.
Yes, I think so. But at our age, a healthy meal is tasty.
I agree. Yeah, I eat very healthy, and I think that they are very tasty, the foods I eat. Natural, by being natural is just the best. Do you believe in miracles?
Well, yes, I have to say yes.
Why?
Well, I'm a result of a miracle. I'll send you that story.
I'd love to read that.
I was a fighter pilot, and I had 3 students on a night mission. The sheer force of nature closed a cloud bank along the Gulf Coast and for 100 miles inland. And I had radio failure, and it's a hair-raising story, but I landed at an airport in San Antonio, and on the rollout down the runway, the 4-man ran out of fuel and turned on the taxiway. The 3-man ran out of fuel, and I flamed out as I entered the chocks.
Wow.
Yeah. It was hair-raising.
Yeah, so that was a miracle, right?
Yeah.
Do you recall the landing on the Hudson River in New York? I think the pilot's name was Sully. Yeah, what do you think about that landing, that decision he made?
Oh, well, I thought he did a good job as a pilot. He took the facts and he went with them. If you saw the movie, they exonerated him.
It was not really how it happened. The movie, I watched the movie, yeah.
Yeah, but it took 18 attempts for the pilot to duplicate the thing where he landed, but Sally told him they didn't practice that. He had to do it right then, and so it was very good. He did.
I think he had training, for what I heard. Yeah, he was a well-trained pilot.
Oh, yes, I think so. I think all the pilots are very well trained. And and they've got a lot of good equipment. I flew planes that were closer to Eddie Rickenbacker's World War I, but they've got, just really good radar and radios and
right.
Everything.
That was the only experience you had, Lawrence, with failure as a pilot?
Oh no.
Oh no,
No.
we had others. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's an unnatural condition.
What a dangerous profession.
My class started with 68 pilots, and in 4 years, half of them were dead, and it was peacetime. And so it's not a natural condition.
Right. Why did you choose to become a pilot?
Well, I completed 3 years of college and decided I didn't like my major and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I always wanted to fly, so I flew. I joined the Navy.
Wow.
Typical brain dead kids.
Right. I have 2 questions left. If you knew for sure that you would die tomorrow, what would you do today?
Well, I pretty much live each day that way and would make sure my wife knew where everything was and just have dinner and go to bed and look forward to it tomorrow.
Nothing different? Lawrence, you wouldn't do anything different today?
No. Oh, I'd probably call the kids and wish them goodbye.
Right. That makes me think about life being this mysterious, journey. We don't know when we're going to die. So it's a good practice to say to people we love that we love them, or the way you define love, that you have been grateful for their love and appreciative of. I like that. And my last question is, what are 3 things about life you wish everyone would know before they die?
Well, I wish that they would know that the language is tricky, that they can't know it all, they can't have it all. Life's complex and big, and I hope that they would learn that they couldn't impose their will on another. That's what I want.
That's a powerful lesson or advice or way of living or practice, I would say. Acceptance. If we could accept more the way other people are, the way life is, I think we would live a more peaceful life.
Yes. It's very definitely.
Like you're saying, instead of imposing, trying to change what we cannot change. Yeah. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for this conversation again. It's always very genuine. It always makes me feel peaceful at the end.
Oh, good. I'm very, very glad. I hope the listeners enjoyed.
Thank you. Where can we find more information about you? How can the audience be in contact with you if they want to?
Just email me at Lawrence at 1317@gmail.com.
Thank you so much again. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thank you, Lawrence. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Lawrence McGrath, please visit the page fitforjoy.org/authors. To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. I want to thank the Patreon members, Lawrence McGrath, Mark Basden, Terry Clayton, and Aidan Vickrock. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.